So I'm going to share with you now how Chazal tell us what's true power, because this is going to be our intro to Marshal number 2, our next activity, our next experiment, if you want to call it, where we're going to help children recognize what is it going to take for me to stand up to a bully on a very practical level. So we have a very famous Mishnah, Pirkei Avos, Perek Daled, Mishnah Aleph, which says, Eizehu Gibor, who is a truly powerful person, HaKovesh et Yitzray. Famous answer, the one who controls his Yetzer. Yetzer literally means designer. A Yetzer is a designer. Yetzer we refer to as the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara we mentioned in building block number 9, with a number of different Makoros, is essentially Machshavos Ra'os. That's from the Likutei Moharan in Torah Mem Tes, which spells out Hayetzer Tov Hema Machshavos Tovos, the Hayetzer Hara Hema Machshavos Ra'os. It's worthwhile going through that whole Torah of there. It's very powerful, and it really helps us understand the power of thought, the power of the mind to be in control, and recognize the Yetzer Hara is not some sort of evil inclination, evil voice. It kind of is that, but really it's just, once you break it down to thought, and that everything is thought, then you know, hey, is this thought supporting me or not? Is this support, it's in the category of Natira, Nakama, Sinner, hatred, Ka'as, Gaiva, Taiva, Loitachmoy. There's so many Aveiras that are Deraisa, which the Torah is claiming I can control, and the Raya, the proof is, it gives me a mitzvah to not go there. Lo taturu acharei levavchem. Don't follow after your thoughts. Whose thoughts should I follow? HaKadosh Baruch Hu's thoughts, which are, don't fall into thinking that I have an addiction. My problem is not the addiction, my problem is my thinking. Don't fall into the belief that I have a drinking problem or an eating problem or a victim problem. I'm always the target of everyone's bullying. No, I have a thinking problem. That's the only problem that exists. Even food, I have a thinking problem because I don't pay attention to how I eat, what I eat, how much I eat, when I eat. My mind is not engaged in what I'm doing. And if I learn a little bit about the impact of food on my body and how it's dragging me down, or how I use it to escape when I'm under stress, then recognizing that thought helps me let go, because that shift completely neutralizes the power of my emotions to control me, the power of outside to control me, because it's always inside out. It's never any other way. When it looks like it's outside in, that's just simply a misunderstanding. It's non-reality. That's not how the mind works. That's not how life works. That's not how Olam Hazeh works. Olam Hazeh is designed to fool me, but in order for me to outfool it and not be deceived by Olam HaSheker, Olam HaDimyon, because it really is just an illusion. It's not the weather, and it's not the people, it's not the circumstances, it's not the grade, it's not did I pass or I didn't pass, it's not my weight, it's not the size of my body, it's not my bank account, it's not my car, it's all, how am I paying attention to your reality, Hashem, which is, life is good. Life is saturated with kindness. There are good people in my life, there are good experiences in my life, there's a lot to look forward to. And that just one hero of Teshuvah is worth coming into this world for. You won the lottery for being alive. You won the lottery for being Jewish. You won the lottery for being born healthy. You won the lottery for still being healthy. You won the lottery for learning Torah. You keep Shabbos and Kashrus and mitzvahs. Oh, you're a Shomer Shabbos. Oh, so you won the lottery for being alive. There's so much good to Chesed Kel Kol Hayom, to pay attention to the good in my life, that the purpose of Olam HaDimyon, Olam HaNisayon, Olam HaHafuch is to deceive me, because it's Olam HaSheker. In order that when I break through that deception, it's worth so much. From Sarah Agra, it's going to be so valuable to have made that shift and start experiencing the insight that comes from recognizing, that was a thought. And I was about to trip into my emotions being triggered off by you, that terrible tragedy, And then we start to pay attention to reality, is that we live inside out. We never live outside in. Okay, so let's get to what does it mean that you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, are defining true power as an inside job. HaKovesh et Yitzrei. So what does that mean? Very simple. The Mishnah doesn't answer Ezehu Gibor, who's a powerful person, and then gives you this long list of all the people in history who have won the heavyweight championship in the Olympics, or Charles Atlas, that's going back a little bit. That's not what it's referring to. It's referring to internal power. HaKovesh et Yitzrei. He conquers the thoughts that are not good. So I don't want to call it negative thinking, although I have many times, because then it makes the assumption there's positive thing and negative thing, which is true, but it's simpler than that. It's the conquering of thought that doesn't support you. And the way you conquer it is not necessarily by fighting it, but actually by not fighting it. And the proof is, Tov erech apayim migibar. The Mishnah now gives you a verse from Mishlei to tell you that a gibor, a soldier who's very strong and physically powerful, he's not as powerful as Tov erech apayim, someone who controls their anger. Erech apayim literally means long nostrils, because when I get angry, my nostrils elongate, and comes along the Mishnah to tell me, Tov erech apayim migibar. I am angry. You can see from my facial expression, you see from my nostrils that I'm upset. But where am I upset? Inside. But I'm not letting it out. That is more powerful than a gibor. Tov erech apayim migibar, than a powerful soldier. Now the Mishnah gives you the next madrega. Umoishel buruchai, someone who controls his breath. Meloiket ear is greater than someone who has an army that besieges an entire city. Hey, if you've got an army, it's not just one gibor, not one strong combat soldier, you've got an entire army of trained soldiers, so you can siege an entire city. Hey, that's impressive. That's a lot of power. Well, guess what? Someone who can control their breath. Umoshel beruchai. Now, ruach is either your breath, meaning to say, you don't even have to take in a breath. You didn't lose a heartbeat when you're provoked to anger. That is more powerful than an entire army besieging a city. Oh, so there's two madregas over here. Toiv erech apayim migibar. There's a person who's controlling his anger, but you can see he's still angry, but he's still better than a gibor who's physically strong. But that's not as strong as someone who doesn't even lose a heartbeat. V'lim kalai nafshi tidaim. Let me be silent. What type of silence? There's two types of silence in Lashon HaKodesh: shtika and doimem. Shtika is when you're silent, but your brain is not. You are thinking, I really can't stand this person. That really gets me angry. He annoys me so much. I hate when they do that. I hate when they say that. But I'm not saying anything. It's all going over here. So that's shtika. It's not coming out of here. But doimem means he's not even thinking it. Doimem means he is so in control that he doesn't let his thoughts go there. How do we know this? You see it from Aaron HaKohen. I think it's in Perek Yud in Bamidbar, when his two sons die on the same day of the inauguration of the Mishkan, and the Torah is made, testifies that Aaron responded with two words, Vayidaim Aaron. Aaron was silent. There's two types of silence. There's shtika. There's silence because you're not saying anything, but you could be thinking a lot. I can't believe you did that to me, God. Why me? Don't I do enough for you? Oh, I know why, because I upset you, and then I start beating myself up. Then there's Vayidaim, where you don't even go to Natira. and start thinking the negative memories of what you've done to me or anything else that is going to beat myself up over. Oh, so this is very powerful. You've got two levels of gibur. A is the hill gibur. It's either I'm strong internally, but I'm struggling, or there's another one where when you're insulted, water off the duck's back. Cool. I guess that's your opinion, it's not mine. And nothing you can say will ever change my opinion of me, unless it is in alignment with who I am. If you tell me Hashem loves me, I'll probably believe you. If you tell me that you admire qualities, hey, I can take that. If you insult me because you want to put me down, I'm going to put that against the frame of reference of what Hashem defines me as. I'm Selem Elokim. I'm thought in the moment, so I don't have to think what you're telling me. And if I don't believe it's true and it's not accurate, so I'll discard it, I will erase it. And I won't hold it against you, because guess who can't go to sleep tonight if I'm holding it against you? I'm the one who's suffering. So I'd much rather be able to live much longer and be mevater, let go, and move forward. In fact, Reb Zera, I believe it is, in Gemara in Megillah, tells us, when he was asked, to what do you ascribe the fact that you live so long, like nearly 100 years old, he answered, Vatran hayisi bebesi. I was very easygoing, very flexible in my home. Hey, your husband, your wife, and your children are enough to get under your skin and really test your mettle. How strong are you inside? And so Reb Zera said, I lived a long time because I never went to sleep holding a grudge against anybody. Vatran hayiti bevesi. Instead, I was very easygoing and just let it pass. Don't think about it afterwards. That's the power of thought. Not to think. It's not a struggle. It's not struggling. It's not thinking. And if it comes up, ignore it. Yes, literally ignore it. All right, we've said a lot on this. Let's move to Mashal number 2. You'll see why it ties into being a gibber, because a gibber is someone who knows that they are not a victim. The reality is we're never victims. We might think that and feel that, and it looks like that way, but we're never victims, because the true power is not our physical prowess. It's not our physical strength. True power is an internal job. It's our internal muscles. And what are they? The resilience to stand up to adversity. And the resilience that when we are knocked down, because we can't always stand up to it, we'll pick ourselves up real quick or soon after, because we know who we really are. We're not victims. We're never victims. Unless I believe it over here, unless I think it over here. But that's only a thought in the moment. And guess what? The next thought does not have to be a continuation of the previous one. Because how long is the life of a thought? And the answer is, as long as you think it. Oh, so if you don't want to be a victim in the next moment, I can actually change my mind. And that's really what teshuvah is. Teshuvah is another thought. Teshuvah is changing what I'm thinking. To stop thinking about what I shouldn't think about. Whether it's natira, remembering your faults, whether it's sinner, whether it is nekama, whether it is taiva, or whether it is lo tachmaid, to actually want what the other person has. All that is in the mind. There's the upside of thought, and munah, that's a thought. Avas Hashem, that's a thought. Avas Yisrael, that's a thought. There are so many mitzvahs, all the mitzvahs really start over here, but there are so many mitzvahs which are directly thought. Even the Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, that's a verbal declaration, but it's a verbal declaration of your mindset, what you're thinking. So these are lots of examples of how to understand. Chazal really wanted us to live inside out. Rabbi Akiva lived inside out. He saw bad things happening, and his response was Gamzu L'Taiva. There's a reason that makes this good, even though it appears on the outside as bad, but on the inside it's really good. And he was consistent. Whether it was in his personal life, whether it was even on his body being tortured, he would laugh when his colleagues would see the destruction of the temple, when they're crying, and they would say, why are you laughing? And he'd say, why are you crying? He said, what do you mean, why are we crying? How can you not cry? The shualim, foxes, which are tamei animals, are crossing the location of the most holy place on planet Earth, in the universe. How can we not cry? The Navi said that the whole Har HaBayis will be completely plowed over. Now you see it happening. And the Shualim are walking across. And Rabbi Akiva was laughing, literally laughing. Said, well, the very reason you're crying is the reason I'm laughing. You see, if you have a munah that Hashem is the one who brought about his own nevuah, that if we didn't keep his Torah, he's going to destroy the temple. So that's the same emunah you have to apply to another nevuah, another prophecy, where Hashem says, in the future, Yerushalayim will be filled with the elderly and the children dancing and singing in the streets. So Rabbi Akiva was using the exact same visual picture experience of the Chorban and coming up with a different interpretation than his own colleagues, Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Rabbi Tarfon, towering tzaddikim. Did they continue an argument after now? Or did they say two words twice? Akiva nichamtanu. Akiva nichamtanu. Akiva, you have consoled us, comforted us. Meaning, he helped them realign with reality. That this world is inside out. Olam hafuch, Olam adimyon, Olam hasheker. And you could easily fall into the trap of thinking, oh my gosh, the Egyptians beat us to the ground. Then it was the Babylonians with Nebuchadnezzar destroyed the Bais Rishon. And then it was the Persians and Haman. And then it was the Golas Yavon who assimilated. Oh my gosh, we lost millions of Jews in assimilation to Golas Yavon, to the Greek Empire. And then we fell into the Roman Empire, destroyed the second temple, and we've been in Golas ever since, with the Crusades and the Inquisition, the Cossacks and Takhmatat and Tsarist Russia and Communist Russia and the Nazis and the Holocaust and jihad. This is one long, terribly painful story. And I don't mean to make less of the reality of that pain, but that's looking at the world outside in. Because Rabbi Yeshua was asked the question, Gemara in Yuma Samach Tes Amud Beis, you look at the, I think it's Das Kenim, Tosef Shoshanim over there, when a Kadosh Baruch Hu is allowing all these terrible things to happen, comes along Hadrian, the Caesar, and says to Rabbi Yeshua, I don't get, how is it that one lame sheep surrounded by 70 wolves, the Jewish people surrounded by 70 nations, how does it survive? That's Naira. That's awesome. To which Rabbi Yeshua amusingly responds, why are you pointing fingers at the survival of the sheep? Look a little bit higher and you'll see in your purview, there's a shepherd who's watching over the sheep. In other words, when you live in the outside-in world, it looks like, hey, this sheep, these Jewish people have no chance. And we've been beaten down. And we can focus on the Germans and jihad and the Egyptians and whoever else hates us throughout history. And along comes Chazal and tells us, you know what you should really be focusing on? The Noira that we say every day in Shemon Esrei refers to Hashem's amazing, awesome supervision that he never lets go of us. Because here's one sheep surrounded by 70 nations throughout history, and we're still here. That's inside out. That's when you're paying attention to reality, that Hashem is with you, in you, around you, and with all the other Yidden too, and you start to notice, what a miracle. Naira, Naira. Ha-Naira, when we say your name is Ha-Naira, see there in the Gemara, Samach Tes Amud Beis in Yuma, and Rashi brings it as well, the Naira is that we're still here. That is awesome. Inside out thinking. And that helps us that when we scroll down Fox News and I don't know any other news that's going on there, Arut Sheva, I don't know, BBC, and you see all the terrible things going on around the world. You and I could easily fall in the trap of thinking, oh my gosh, this world is really, really, really bad. And it comes along Rabbi Akiva and tells us, you got to look at the world inside out, because outside in is never real. That's the power of thought. So, let's look at mashal number 2. Mashal number 2 is a bowling pin. In England we call them skittles. You're throwing a bowl, and what's the aim? You want to try and knock down as many of the 10 pins as you possibly can. So let's pretend that you've got a bowl, and you tell the children if you can bring one into the classroom, not the real one, but plastic Skittles, plastic pins, and a ball, and you throw it and you knock them down. That's easy enough to see. But what would happen if you brought one particular pin that you actually nailed down to on a sheet of paper or a sheet of wood, and now you throw the ball, and the ball keeps hitting that pin, but it won't knock down. It just won't knock it down. So ask the children, what's going on over here? And ask them, what is this possibly a mashal for? And remind them, we're talking about bullying. So tell me, who's the bully and who's the target in this mashal? So hopefully the kids will figure it out. Oh, I get it. The person who is bowling is the bully. And the bowl is the insult or the punch or whatever it is that he's using, cyberbullying, social bullying, to hurt the person who's the skittle, the pin that's being knocked down. So in the second part of this mashal, remember you're throwing the bowl and it knocks the skittles down, knocks the pins down. But then when you pinned down one of the pins to the floor, and as many times as you throw the ball, it just won't knock it down. What's going to happen to the bowler? What is he going to do? He's probably going to go to the next alley and he'll bowl over there. He'll go to a different target. See, the victim, the skittle, the pin, the target, if he is firmly rooted to the ground, what does that mean? And help the children articulate for themselves. Oh, he's got internal strength. Because what's true power? How strong you are outside or how strong you are inside? Remember Gibor? Oh, so what's that strength? Where does that come from? Oh, it's recognizing that thought is always the origin of what I feel. And for me to be bullied by you, I have to feel it. For me to feel it, I've got to think it. But once I realize it's me thinking it, I get to choose whether I want to stay there. Why is he always bullying me? I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. And I go crying to the teacher, crying to my parents. And we're going to talk about that much later on, about what to do in that scenario. But what we're really looking over here is to cut through everything that is sivuvim, is going around and around the issue, but never really going to the core. The core of the issue is not how do we stop the bully bullying, because it's not about the bully. There are going to be scenarios as the child grows up in yeshiva, roommates, camp, if he goes to higher education, the workplace, there's going to be situations where he feels the underdog or intimidated or put down, and he's got to figure out, how am I going to handle this? So even though I'm saying 3 times a day, if I'm not paying attention to what I'm saying, I may not realize I'm training in reality thinking. And instead of getting into the trap of this long story of my life, of being pushed down, knocked down, and trying to get rid of all these bullies. So we can focus on that. We will talk about what to do about the bully. How do we speak to the principal, the teacher? How do we speak to the bully's parents, to the bully directly? We're going to get that because it is part of the whole picture, the whole package of this training. But the main point is you can't stop the bullies in life. There's going to be other scenarios. You might not call them bullies, but there's taunting, there's teasing, there's put downs. And I've got to go through the same stuff. Natira, Nakama, sinner. No. That's a thought, and Hashem doesn't want me to keep those thoughts. Ava, being done l'chavschus. That's a thought. That's an interpretation in my mind about your negative behavior, and I give it a favorable twist. Oh, that's my mind being in control of interpreting the world around me. It's not the world that controls my mind. It's my mind that controls my emotions. It's never the other way around. And when I think it's my feelings caused by people and circumstances, I'm simply living out of non-reality. It's a misunderstanding of how the world really works. Because it's Olam Hadinyan, Olam HaSheker, Olam HaHafuch, all the time. I'm the one who gets the choice to see it for what it is and then be in control of me. So in this mashal, you want the children to tell you, oh, the bully is the bowler, the bowl is the insult or the knocking, the physical bullying, and the skittle, the pin, is the target. So let's ask the children, how do you explain when the target just won't fall? Where's that come from? And help them start articulating, when is a person able to stand up to insults and go back again to the same concept? And help the kids bring out, and you'll be pleasantly surprised what they'll start sharing with you as the weeks unfold in them learning about the real mechanics of bullying. And when we do the midas part of the training and it starts to come into the classroom and then it changes the culture of the kids in the way they interact with each other, they're going to share with you their own personal insights where they saw inside of themselves a shift, a switch from blaming, complaining, denying, and accusing to recognizing, I am in control of me. I have gevura. I have real power. And it's not how well I'm going to shout back at you or punch you harder. It's a power that nobody can take away from me because it's Hashem who gave it to me and I have it all the time. Thought, bechira, seichel, my neshama. It all comes to the same thing. You have the inside ability to be in control. Umoshel beruchai. Rashi tells us on the pasuk Kela Ruchais, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is described as the power of Ruchais. So Rashi tells Yodea Machshavais, he knows thoughts. Oh, so now you could say, knowing that the word Ruach can also mean thought, go back to the pasuk which is demonstrating the Gevura of a Gibor. Umoshel beruchai now means the one who is shoilet, controls Ruchai, his thought. He's in control of his thought. Why not thoughts? Why not Yitzrei Hara? You almost never see the word Yetzer Hara in plural. Why not? Because you can never have more than one thought at a time. And so the Yetzer Hara, even though I might have many Yetzer Haras, but you can only experience one Yetzer Hara, one thought at a time. And that makes it so much easier to recognize, hey, I might be overwhelmed by my Yetzer Haras, but guess what? I only have to battle one thought at a time because I only ever anyway live in one thought at a time. And that makes life so much simpler, so much easier than being overwhelmed by all the addictions and all the thoughts that drive me nuts. And when I realize, 1 second, there aren't lots of thoughts that drive me nuts, there's only one thought at a time. And so I know what I can focus on. So in this mashal, get the kids to talk about what they are experiencing in describing how does that pin stand firm and not get knocked down. And surprise yourself with the insights that they're going to come up with.